morning children. In today's class, we are going to learn about Mughal Empire. The Mughals were the great power which ruled Indian subcontinent. They ruled a large empire during 1550 AD to 1700 AD. Mughals are from the ruling families of Central Asian countries like Uzbekistan and Mongolia.
The first Mughal emperor Babur captured Kabul in 1504 AD. In 1526 AD, he defeated the Sultan of Delhi, Ibrahim Lodi, and captured Delhi and Agra. The first Mughal emperor Babur ruled the country from 1526 AD to 1530 AD. He introduced cannons and guns in Indian warfare. Humayun. Babur's eldest son Humayun was 22 years old when his father died. Due to his lack of experience, he was defeated by Sher Khan and exiled. Humayun spent 15 years in exile in Sindh, Iran and Afghanistan. Then with the help of Safavid Shah, he recaptured Delhi in 1555 AD. But he died in an accident in the same year. Akbar. Akbar was 13 years old when he became emperor. Akbar was very intelligent and he was most famous among the Mughal emperors. He conquered Bengal, Central India, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Afghanistan, Kashmir and some parts of Deccan. Akbar was known in his own time as a military genius. He started military movements in his period. Jahangir. Jahangir was the fourth Mughal emperor and his period was 1605 to 1627 AD.
There is no major invasion in his period. He continued the military movement started by his father Akbar.
Shah Jahan. The fifth Mughal emperor was Shah Jahan. He was the founder of the magnificent monument Taj Mahal at Agra.
Like his grandfather Akbar, he was eager to expand his vast empire. He faced many revolts by nobles and chiefs of his empire. In 1657 to 1658 AD, there was a quarrel over succession amongst his sons. Shah Jahan's one of the son, Aurangzeb, was victorious. He imprisoned his father and killed his three brothers and became emperor.
Aurangzeb. He was the last powerful emperor. His period was from 1658 AD to 1707 AD. He conquered Assam.
But he faced many problems from all over his kingdom. Chhatrapati Shivaji succeeded in establishing an independent Maratha kingdom. Shivaji founded the Hindu kingdom in Deccan against all odds, fighting against the mighty Mughals. He inspired and united the common man to fight against the tyranny of Mughal ruler Aurangzeb by inculcating a sense of pride and nationality in them. Aurangzeb's death was followed by succession conflict amongst his sons. That was the end of Mughal Empire. So far we learnt about Mughal emperors who ruled most part of a country from 1550 AD to 1700 AD. Now let us learn about their relations with Indian rulers, their policies and the changes they brought in our country during their period. India was the country with many kings and chiefs. The Mughal emperors brought them under their control by many ways. Number one, they allowed the old rulers to continue to rule the kingdom by collecting some revenue from them. Number two, Mughals constantly forced the rulers who refused to accept their authority. Number three, many Rajputs refused to accept the Mughal authorities. But Mughals were good enough to handle the situation by marrying their daughters and gave high positions in the kingdom. Jahangir, mother, was the daughter of Rajput ruler of Amber. Also, Shah Jahan's mother was the daughter of the Rajput ruler of Jodhpur. Number 4. The Sisidia Rajputs of Chittor refused to accept Mughals for a long period of time, but they were defeated by Mughals. However, they were given back their land as an assignment. As the Mughals expanded their empire by including many regions, they needed more persons to look after many kinds of work like guarding their palace, governing some regions, conquering a new kingdom, etc. For all these purposes, Mughals recruited large numbers of diverse kinds of people and designated them as rank holders or mansabdars. So, people who joined to serve under Mughals were called as mansabdars. Let us have a close look about who are mansabdars and their responsibilities. Well, mansabdars are those who work directly under the control of the emperor. They could not act or take decisions independently. Mughals constantly transferred mansabdars from one place to another for every 2 or 3 years. This way, Mughals made sure that no mansabdars would get power in their region and call himself an emperor, which had happened in the case of Nayaks in Vijayanagara Empire. Mansabdar's son could not become mansabdar by default. Only the emperor had the authority to decide whether to appoint mansabdar's son as mansabdar or not.
The Mansabdar's military responsibility was to maintain a specified number of horse riders known as cavalrymen. The Mansabdar would bring his cavalryman for review, get them registered, his horses branded, and then receive money to pay them as salary.
Mansabdars received their salaries as revenue assignment called Jagirs. Jagir is basically a small territory which an emperor can give to an army chief as recognition of his military service. Most of the mansabdars did not actually reside in or administer their Jagirs. They could only collect the revenue due from their Jagir villages with the help of servants, Jagirdars, and sent to the emperor. The Jagir was administered by the other officials directly under the emperor. Even the Jagirs were constantly transferred once in every 2 or 3 years.
In Akbar's reign, Jagirs were carefully assessed so that their revenues were more or less equal to the salary of the Mansabdars. But during Aurangzeb's reign, there were more number of Mansabdars, which led to the shortage of Jagirs. Aurangzeb was not able to manage Mansabdars and Jagirdars properly, and as a result, farmers suffered terribly. The main source of income available to Mughal rulers was tax on the produce of the peasantry. Todarmal, revenue minister of Akbar, carried surveys on crop yields, prices and areas cultivated for a 10-year period, 1570 to 1580 AD. Basing on this data, tax rates were fixed for each crop. Each province was divided into revenue circles with its own schedule of revenue rates for individual crops. This revenue system was known as Zabt. Zamindars. The Mughals used one term, Zamindars, to describe all intermediaries. The Zamindars were not appointed by Mughal emperors but existed on hereditary basis. That is, sons succeeded when the fathers died. They often acted as representatives of the local people in dealing with the Mughal officials. Akbar was interested in the religion and social customs of different people. Akbar wanted to bring together people of diverse faiths. This led to an idea of Sulh-e-Kull, or universal people. This idea of tolerance did not discriminate among people of different religions in his realm. Instead, it focused on the system of ethics, honesty, justice, peace that was universally applicable. Abdul Fazl helped Akbar in forming a vision of governance around this idea of Sulh-e-Kull. This principle was followed by Jahangir and Shah Jahan as well. Aurangzeb deviated from this policy and tried to project himself as favoring only Sunni Muslims. People of other religions felt anguished by this policy of Aurangzeb. The administrative and the military efficiency of Mughal Empire led to great economic and commercial prosperity. International travelers described it as the fabled land of wealth. But these same visitors also appalled at the state of poverty that existed side by side with great opulence. The enormous wealth and resource commanded by the Mughal elite made them an extremely powerful group of people. The authority of the Mughal emperor slowly declined. The servants emerged as powerful centers of power in their region. They constituted new dynasties and held commands of provinces like Hyderabad and Awadh. By the 18th century, the provinces of the empire had consolidated their independent political identities. This led to the decline of Mughal Empire.
Well students, that was all for today. See you in next class. Bye bye.